Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Leira Online Smicha. In the Parshas Mishpatim, the opening words are Ve'ela HaMishpatim Bashatasim Lifneim. These are the laws that you place in front of them, before them. So the Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin, Dav Zayin Amud Beis, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Ashatasim Lifneim, you should place in front of them. The right wording should be Asher Talamdim. These are the laws that you should teach them. Why does it say Asher Tasim Lifneim? And Rabbi Yirmiyah answers, Ela Elu Klei Hadayonim. This is referring to that there are certain things that are placed in front of them during the court case, during the mishpat, that you should see that the authority and the Dayanim mean business. They have different utensils, different kalim, that they sort of instill fear in the litigants. And Rav Hai says, Bezdin, Tzarech Sheyiloi, Mezuman, B'Moshe Bezdin has to have prepared, when they're sitting in a Bezdin, makel, a stick, lirdes boy, or a tzur, and a strap, lahalkas boy, to give malchus, v'shofar, and a shofar in case they put somebody in Cherem. When the litigants see that, that there's authority to this Bezdin, and Bezdin is able to give malchus, and Bezdin is able to put somebody in Cherem, it instills fear. And that's why it's Asher Tasim Lefneim. You put this down, and people should know that we mean business. So the question that the Sma asks in Choshen Mishpat Siman Aleph, why, even though the Torah does bring the Gemara, in Shulchan Aruch it's not mentioned anywhere that the Dayanim should do that and have them hanging on the wall right next to the Din Torah. And the Sma in Sifkat Nalev says the Efshar could be that this halacha only applies to Dayanim Smuchim. Today's days it's not the real Dayanim because nobody is Samuch Ish Mipi Ish Ad Moshe Rabbeinu and we're Chutz La'aretz. But maybe Dayanim Smuchim have this halacha because Tasim Lifneihem Ksiv. Lifneim are talking about the real Dayanim. Even though he says this svara, he says, but Mistimas Lashon of Hai, when you look at the Lashon of Rav Hai going, where he says that the Dayanim should have these utensils, it's mashma, and the fact that the Torah did bring it's mashma, every Bezdin should have it. So the Pischei Tshuva in Sif Aleph discusses this, whether this halacha l'maisa or not, and he brings some svarim that Misha writes a linagain, if there is a Bezdin that wants to have this custom and have these utensils hanging, it doesn't make them look arrogant by being different, because halacha allows such a thing, and this is accepted. So that's why it says Ashatasim Lifneim. Now Rashi in Chumash quotes the Gemara Gittin, and the Gemara says Lifneim V'loi Lifnei Akum. The Gemara Sanhedrin and Gittin, that a Yid is only allowed to go to a Yiddish court, a Yiddish Bezdin, and he's not allowed to go to secular court. So there's a Sefer that brings Minchas Yehuda that brings a Shaila. Why do we need a pasuk to teach us that Loi Lifnei Akum? Lifneim V'loi Lifnei Akum. We know that even Gerim, even in Bezdin, when you're appointing Dayanim, there's only certain people who are roi to be a Dayan, and one of the groups of people who can't be a Dayanim are Gerim. Gerim Apsulum Ladun. And if a Ger is possible to be a Dayan, of course, Akum. B'kerev Achecha, we learn a special pasuk that it has to be a Jew to be in a Bezdin. If you can't be in a Bezdin, so of course you can't lechatchila go to a secular court. So why do we need a special pasuk for this? So in the Sefer Drash V'iyun, he gives an answer, and he says, that the halacha is that a ger is puzzle to be a dayan, that's only if he's serving as a dayan that does it b'kfiyah, does it by force. He's one of the three dayanim that calls you, you must show up, you're subpoenaed, you must come, whether you like it or not. That type of authority a ger can't have. However, if the two litigants, the two bali dinim, accept a ger as a dayan, then it is considered a kosher dayan. You are able to break this rule of not having a ger as a dayan as long as the Baalei Dinim are kablu, or the Baalei Dinim accepted him. Now, by a goy, even if the Baalei Dinim decide on their own, we will go settle this by a goyish court, that's not allowed. And therefore, we have the pasuk that says lifneim v'loy lifnei akum, whereas by a ger there could be kablu, by a akum you can't even do kablu, even if both litigants are willing to go to court and they agree to it, you can't go to court. And this is actually in Choshen Mishpat Siman Chavav. You're not allowed to settle your disputes in court. Another answer is that again, even the question was, why do I need a special pasuk to go to, not to go to court when even a ger and bezdin is not allowed? And the answer is a ger and bezdin is not allowed only if there's other choice. If there's yidden who are qualified dayanim, then you shouldn't take a ger. But if there isn't any Jews qualified to be a dayan, and the only ones who are able, or the better ones, are the gerim, then the ger is kosher ladun. And the Minchas Yehuda brings a raya. V'haraya, we learned from Pirkei Avos, two great tzaddikim, Shmaya of Talyan. Shmaya of Talyan were both gerim, and yet they were dayanim. Why? Because they were the greatest ones. When they are the greatest dayanim, despite the fact that their gerim could be accepted by a goy, I don't care what level he is, we can't use a goy as a dayan. Now, this that he says for sure that Shmaya of Talyan were gerim, the Tosfos Yom Tif actually says that they weren't gerim themselves. They themselves, their mother was Jewish, but the father's side, they come from non-Jews. So it's not a clear thing that they have halacha of gerim. The Tumim in Siman Zayin, Siv Katan Aleph, says like this. We just mentioned that if you mekabel gerim, then even though halacha says they're not qualified for dayanim, but the litigants are able to be mekabel whoever they want. The famous Gemara in Sanhedrin, even if they say Neman alai shloisha roya bakar, the three farmers, the three butchers, which might have very little credibility, but if the two litigants want to honor what they say, they have to accept it. Kol t'nai shabamam and kayin. So by gerim, if the two Baalei Dinim are willing to accept it, you have to honor what the verdict of the ger would be. But that's only in dinei mamonos. Like I said before, kol t'nai shabamam and kayim. Everybody has the rights to do whatever he wants with his own money. And if these two people are willing to listen to the ger about financial issues, good for them. But this kiblu alayu does not work for dinei nefashis. For dinei nefashis, if there's a capital punishment case and the person says, I'm willing to accept the ger as a dayan, and whatever he says, even if he says that the person's chayav misa, I will honor that, we find you don't have that right to do so. Now, so the Tumim asks, how could Shmaya of Talyan be sitting and Bezdin Agadol in Yerushalayim? The Bezdin Agadol in Yerushalayim, their primary cases that they were dealing with was not dinei mamonos. They were dealing with dinei nefashis. If we were dealing with dinei nefashis and a dinei zaken mamrei, if that's what they were there for, how could you have gerim in their bezdin? So perhaps the Tumim answers, it could be that a melech is different. Meaning, just like a melech has reshus to do whatever he wants, he could kill somebody, has the authority to kill somebody. So too, because Shmaya of Talyan were appointed to be dayanim from the malche, and they were memalche chashmonoim, therefore, being that a melech has that great authority that they're able to kill, so that gave them the authority, despite that they were gerim or partial gerim, they were able to deal with sitting in bezdin, even the bezdin of dinei nefashis. Another answer is given. Who says they actually paskin? Maybe they were sitting there, and the other dayanim were the ones that paskening. They used Shmaya of Talyan because they were tremendous wisdom and Chachmas Torah, they discussed the matters with him. Now the Ramban says even if we say that Kiblu Alayu works for Gerim, and you have to honor whatever they say, that's not necessarily true. Meaning to say, Kiblu Alayu will work, that if they become, if the two Bali Dinim say, we're ready for the Gerim to be a Baldin, Dayan, that's fine. But if I'm not pleased, if the Bali Dinim are not pleased with the verdict, they still have the rights to say, I changed my mind. Whereas by a regular Dayan or suitable Dayan, once you accepted him, you can't back out, and that's what the Ramban says. Now, we all know what the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Chavav, and the Rambam brings this in Perek Chavav from Hilchos Sanhedrin, that even though the Shulchan Aruch, the Torah says Lifneim v'loy Lifnei Akum, so it always has to be settled in Bezdin, not going to secular court. If your opponent doesn't want to come to Bezdin, so the Shulchan Aruch says, Mikabel Rishus mi Bezdin, he gets permission for the Bezdin, and he takes the person to court. And this is hard to understand. Make up your mind. Is it prohibited to go to court? Is it a lav, a eser? What is it? Because Bezdin cannot give somebody permission to eat chazer. Bezdin cannot give somebody permission to be Mechal Shabbos just for his good looks. So why is over here, if a guy is not going to Bezdin has the right to give permission and say, go to court? The Klei Chemda asks, since this is going to Goyish court is a lav abba miklal eser, and a person has to try to give away all his money before he transgresses a lois eser. So if it's a financial matter and the worst comes to worst, he'll lose the money. Who says you're allowed to save money by going against the lois eser of going to secular court? How does this netilas reshus help? And don't tell me, says the Klei Chemda, that because you got reshus from Bezdin, it's as if the judge in the secular court is the shliach of Bezdin, and it's really Bezdin doing the judging, but they're busy right now. They're sending it off to somebody else. That makes no sense, because if the ruling of the secular court would always have the same results as Bezdin, you could say maybe they would be considered their shluchim, even though they're goyim, which is a separate thing. How could you make a goy a shliach? But he's talking in hashkafa. But hayois that the secular court results, verdict, in many ways is going to be a different verdict. That's what the Torah would say. How could you say that the judge in court is acting as a shliach of Bezdin? So what's takab shak? That if you get reshus, you could go from Bezdin to court. So the Nesivus, in Chosh Mishpat Siman Chavav, Sivkat and Gimel, he says it's not so easy. This whole permission to go to court is not so easy. Be'emes, it's taka asa. You're not allowed to go to court. You have to go to Bezdin. If in Bezdin he got a verdict and the person doesn't listen to the verdict, then you're allowed to go to court, but with permission. But if he never wanted to come to Bezdin, and the Bezdin doesn't even know if he's guilty or not guilty, then the most that they could do is put him in cherem. But you can't give a person reshus to break a leisas, a kum vasei, and just go to court. So the Nesivus is very much against this easy go to court. The fact is that many svarim it says that we don't paskin like the Nesivus, and we see that a lot of people rely on this heter of getting reshus for Bezdin, but the question is only, how does Bezdin have this reshus?